Welcome back to Catalyst University. My name is Kevin Tokoph. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for future videos and notifications. In the previous video, we discussed the general mechanism of increased pigmentation of keratinocytes, and we answered the question of why, when somebody goes out in the sun, they get a tan. And it had to do with increased melanocyte activity in a negative feedback loop to protect the keratinocyte's DNA from ultraviolet light. And so the keratinocyte received melanin from the melanocyte. In this video, we're going to look at the biosynthetic pathway of melanin, and we'll also answer a second question here in this video. Why do some people from different ethnicities or geographic regions have different baseline levels of melanin biosynthesis? And so for people that have more melanin, in particular eumelanin, as we'll discuss in a few minutes, they tend to have darker skin more in the brown to black area of the spectrum. Whereas people that have very little eumelanin will tend to have lighter skin, such as Caucasians, people from Northern Europe. Okay? So why is that? I mentioned that it has nothing to do with the number of melanocytes. Most people have pretty much the same number of melanocytes. Rather, it's differences in melanocyte activity that produce differences in skin pigmentation. So first of all, let's go through this pathway and discuss the production of the major two types of melanin, which are eumelanin and pheomelanin. So first we'll do eumelanin, and we'll see that both of these pathways start with the amino acid tyrosine. All right, so tyrosine is going to be converted to one of two things by the same enzyme. It's an enzyme with two activities. The enzyme is called tyrosinase, and in fact, a deficiency of tyrosinase is actually what produces albinism. Okay, very important to know that. But in any case, this process generally is going to occur in the cytoplasm of the melanocyte. So it's going to occur in the cytoplasm, and everything that occurs in these green boxes is occurring in a melanosome. Okay? So in the cytoplasm, the tyrosine molecule is converted to dopaquinone, or DQ as we'll call it here. That's one activity of tyrosinase. The second activity is for tyrosine to be converted to L-dopa. And L-dopa can actually be transported into the melanosome. Okay? It's also worth noting that this L-dopa molecule can also be converted back to dopaquinone by a second reaction of tyrosinase. Okay? And it turns out that dopaquinone is going to be pretty much the direct precursor to both eumelanin and pheomelanin. And then dopaquinone can be transported into the melanosome, where it can undergo one of two reactions. This reaction going directly downward to convert to leukodopachrome. This is actually done through a simple cyclization reaction. The one going right here is a second reaction of tyrosinase, where dopaquinone can actually be converted to dopachrome, and this actually in the process produces another L-dopa, which can then be converted back to dopaquinone, and so this process kind of replenishes itself in some ways. But in any case, at that point, we'll have leukodopachrome and then dopachrome. Now, dopachrome can be decarboxylated. This carboxyl group can actually be removed to generate this molecule called dihydroxyindole. This dihydroxyindole can react with tyrosinase to produce indolquinone, or IQ. Okay? The dopachrome can react with another enzyme called TRP2. This is also called dopachrome tautomerase. This can actually convert dopachrome into dihydroxyindole carboxylic acid, or DHICA. And then leukodopachrome can actually be converted into indole carboxylic acid quinone right here, or ICAQ. Now this is very important because these three molecules are going to be polymerized together. In somewhat of a seemingly random fashion. There's different ways that they can attach to each other. But in any case, this is going to be catalyzed by a protein called TRP1. This is tyrosinase-related protein 1, and this enzyme will just polymerize indolquinone, dihydroxyindole carboxylic acid, and indole carboxylic acid quinone, and then it will just build them over and over and over again, kind of like how DNA is polymerized by varying nucleotides of A, C, T, and G, right? Except this is going to have three monomers, and it's just going to polymerize them into a polymer called eumelanin. And this eumelanin is going to be what's inside the melanosome, okay? Now, a melanosome that makes eumelanin is called a eumelanisome. Okay? And eumelanin is the type of melanin that we say has a brown to black color. This is the dark pigment. Okay? There's another kind of pigment called pheomelanin. This one's more in the red area of the spectrum, so it's not that dark. And the difference between pheomelanin and eumelanin is that pheomelanin is going to contain the amino acid cysteine as well. All right, so now that we've seen the production of eumelanin in what would be a eumelanosome, let's look at the production of pheomelanin in what would be a pheomelanosome. So we start off with the same precursor here, dopaquinone, and dopaquinone is going to be transported into the pheomelanosome and combined with the amino acid cysteine. So we see here the dopaquinone structure, general structure right here, but this cysteine amino acid is attached in one of two places. Down here is the 5 position. So in this case, we get 5-cysteine dopamine, because actually now this molecule is actually dopamine up here. Or it can be attached at the 2 position atop this benzene ring if we can get 2-cysteine dopamine. In any case, these molecules are going to be oxidized by tyrosinase. So it's going to use a molecule of dopaquinone, get out a dopa back, and we now have these 2 hydroxyl groups right here on the dopamine molecule oxidized into carbonyls. These are called cysteine dopaquinones. Okay, cysteine dopaquinones. And through a series of processes, one, we're going to have cyclization of these to get benzothiazine intermediates, and then a series of oxidations which is going to polymerize these 2 things together in a certain way. And so much like we had eumelanin being a polymer of these 3 monomers right here, pheomelanin is going to be a polymer of these 2 monomers right here in varying fashions. And so this melanosome right here is going to be a pheomelanosome because it's going to contain pheomelanin, a polymer of these benzothiazine intermediates. And this pigment is going to be, as I said, more in the red area of the spectrum. So it's not going to be as dark as it is in eumelanin. Now, like I asked at the beginning of the video, for people that have naturally darker skin, is it that they have more melanocytes? No. They have more activity of those existing melanocytes. And by more activity, what we mean is more melanosomes, and they have more enzymes and proteins here needed for melanogenesis. That is tyrosinase, TRP2, which is dopachrome tautomerase, and TRP1, which is tyrosinase-related protein. Okay? So they have more of the enzymes, more of the proteins, more of these organelles, particularly the eumelanosomes. That's for people that have darker skin. And don't think for 1 minute that people either have eumelanin or they have pheomelanin. It's not an all or none kind of thing, or one or the other. Rather, people have a weighted contribution of both of these. So for example, for the pigments that they have out of these 2, you could have one person with 65% eumelanin and 35% pheomelanin. Or you could have another person with 80% pheomelanin and 20% eumelanin. So each of their keratinocytes, they're not going to be one or the other. Even the relative amounts of these 2 polymers can also be varied. For example, there may be some other environmental condition that somebody goes in where they may already have 80% eumelanin, but the body may sense that it needs to switch that proportion maybe to 90% eumelanin and down to 10% pheomelanin. So even the relative amounts of these can also be altered, not just the absolute activity, but also the relative activity between both of these pathways. Okay? But if we had to contrast eumelanin and pheomelanin, the major difference between these 2 is that pheomelanin contains the amino acid cysteine, eventually it becomes cyclized, whereas eumelanin does not contain the amino acid cysteine. But ultimately, both of these polymers originate from the amino acid tyrosine. And then just keep in mind that because both of them require the enzyme tyrosinase, if this enzyme is deficient or dysfunctional in an individual, that person will have genetic albinism, where they don't generate any melanins, and so they end up with very, very light skin and pink irises and so on and so forth. And they are very susceptible to UV damage to their skin and underlying tissues, because if they cannot generate melanin due to the lack of this enzyme, they're not going to have any protection for their keratinocytes, and they can also have damage to underlying tissues, say in the dermis. So hopefully this video made sense to you and you learned a lot. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for future videos and notifications. Thank you very much.